Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, dust them off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today is Tony Pasculi.
Thanks, Tom.
And today we are talking about one of my favorites from way back when. The book is Falling Free by Lois McMaster Bujold.
So this is, I was surprised to learn, part of the, I'm going to say this wrong, Vorkosigan Saga.
Yes, it is definitely designed to be mispronounced.
Yeah. But have you read other books in the Vorkosigan Saga?
I believe I have not. Okay. And it's extensive, depending on how you count it, somewhere between 17 and 23 entries.
Yeah. And as far as I can tell, this has nothing to do with the Vorkosigans. It's just set in the same universe.
According to the Wikipedia article, the Quaddies do reappear in one of the later saga books.
Okay.
Just kind of like the lead character is traveling and stops in Quaddy territory and negotiates with them for something. Okay. So they don't completely disappear, but they don't seem significant.
Yeah, interesting. Have you read any of the other books in the saga?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it that intently, but I think it seems like the sort of thing that if I stumbled onto it, I would probably have read several of them.
I've read one or two. I was on a mission to read all of the Hugo winners at one point. And at least one or two of them won Hugo Awards for Best Novel. So I've read those. So this one, though, this almost standalone episode in the saga, why is this a favorite book?
It's just it's a good fun read. This was introduced to me by one of my early college buddies, Rob, and he kind of went out of his way to show me things he didn't think that I would find on my own, and this was one of them.
Okay, nice.
And it's just it's not perhaps, anything epic, but it's a neat book. And when I was reading it, one thing that did struck me is it feels young. It feels like sci-fi that is targeted at a young audience, maybe not quite on the level of a Heinlein juvenile. I think this would be a fantastic introduction book for somebody that had never read sci-fi before.
Interesting. It doesn't feel young to me, but it does have a certain, I want to say, innocence. It's not, the good guys are good, the bad guys are bad. The
Quaddies are clearly bad.
Yeah, the Quaddies are innocent. There's not a lot of, my dark and twisted soul going on. Yeah, but at the same time, it's pretty, I want to say, pretty explicitly sexual in places.
Yeah, it does have some. So, it's a sci-fi novel. Yeah. It's obligatory. It's obligatory to have sex in it, right?
So does this for you? I immediately felt parallels with Moten God's Eye.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that resonate with you? And it's because the Quaddies have...
Is it just because of the extra limbs?
It's not just because of the extra limbs. See, that would be too cheap. It's partly because of the extra limbs, but also there's an attitude. The Quaddies remind me of who are the ones that get loose and just reproduce all over the space station and they're a threat? The Browns?
The people call them brownies. I don't remember what. Watchmakers, I think.
Watchmakers, yeah. They're engineers. They're just they're fanatically dedicated to making things, building things, taking things apart. And they also have a kind of innocence to them. They're not particularly verbal, I don't believe, the watchmakers, right?
I don't think they communicate verbally at all.
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like that. And then also the way that the villains in this case were dealing with them. In Moten God's Eye, they're heroes that are shutting down this threat of these creatures with extra limbs. Here, it's the villains who are shutting down the threat, but treat them the same way. They treat them like the same sort of threat. It's like, oh my God, if we just have one breeding pair survive, it's going to be a nightmare.
That's the villains on this. The Modis are clearly the Modis. The Quaddies are clearly not a meaningful threat. And I think Van Ada is the bad guy.
Yes.
Leo Graff is the good guy. So Van Ada uses that idea of them reproducing as a selling point when he suddenly decides the only way he's going to salvage his career is by killing the Modis.
Yeah.
And
Quaddies.
it's all Quads. Are we going to do this all episode long? We're probably going to do this all episode long. They are quaddies, Tom, not modies. And it's all about money, right? So, I mean, and this is a trendy sci-fi thing, but these guys were the quaddies were genetically engineered to be labor-saving, money-saving devices, to be welders in free-fall scenarios, not to have to rotate Earthside and not to have rights, just to be property.
So to bring everybody up to speed, we're talking about people who have been genetically engineered to live in zero G comfortably and have 4 arms and 0 legs. So where they should have legs, in fact, they have another pair of arms. That's why they're called quaddies.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Leo Graff is an engineer who's brought in there to teach them welding. He apparently is a universally renowned welder and welding teacher. But suddenly this new technology rolls out from somewhere else, a new anti-grav technology that's going to make deep space welding nowhere near as important as once it was. And suddenly these quaddies, which were a phenomenally expensive endeavor to create, are no longer financially viable. Yes. So the word goes out to shut it down. And this is where Van Atta, who is the mid-level evil bureaucrat, very small brain, decides the smart thing to do would be to find a way to accidentally kill them.
Yeah. And I mean, another complication is, the quaddies are rebelling against their status as property. They don't want to be property. And one of the things that sets that off is one of them has been mated and has a kid, and now they're like, yeah, but you're not going to stay with that partner, even though they've now fallen in love. Mm-hmm. It's like, we have other plans for you. We're gonna pair you off with this other person, and we're gonna send your mate somewhere else entirely.
Right, we've got this Bene Gesserit breeding plan to go through. But yeah, they were not indoctrinated.
Well, nothing that thoughtful, I think. Yeah. So that sparks a rebellion. They're just like, what the hell? No.
Yeah.
Because, despite the fact that they are engineered, they still have a lot of human qualities, and they feel very resentful of having their liberties restricted that way. Yeah. So, in fact, the mother gets stripped of her child at one point.
She does get stripped of her child. She gets stripped of her romantic affiliation as well.
Yeah.
They try to escape, and there's some hijinks when they first stumbled into a gravity environment. Mm-hmm. And then, Tony, is that his name?
Tony's the male partner.
Right. Ends up injured and left behind as they escape. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of action that happens in this thing. Mm-hmm. And although the plot is kind of a linear progression, there's lots of fun things along the way and some very transparent things along the way, too. Yeah. For example, Leo comes up with the idea of stealing the habitat.
Yeah,
right?
That's
They're going
great.
to steal a cargo jump ship. They're going to steal the habitat, and they're going to flee civilized space. This is his only thing he can come up with. So he's ordering supplies in bulk. And he orders these things called pusher rods, which apparently fuel the little utility carts they use in space. They're very important to have. And he ends up with a shipment of gasoline.
Because someone mistyped a number. Yeah.
Because somebody mistyped a number in the order form. So they'd shipped hundreds and hundreds of gallons of gasoline up to the space station. And it can't be returned because there's not enough fuel on the shuttle at the moment. So it's got all this gasoline sitting around. It's like, I wonder if that's going to come in handy in about 2 chapters. And sure enough, in 2 chapters, they find themselves in need of a large quantity of explosives, which otherwise they wouldn't have had the gasoline not materialized. So there are several convenience plot points like that, which is part of why I say it feels very young, too.
One of the things I like about this book is that Graff is very much an engineer, and he's got an engineer's mindset to problem solving. And Van Atta, who's a villain, is a bureaucrat. He's got a bureaucrat's mindset to problem solving.
Yeah.
And of course, the engineer is the good guy. Yay, and that's how it should be. There's a couple quotes I highlighted. The laws of physics are implacable lie detectors, which is great. You can social engineer all you want. And as soon as you run into physics, you're going to find out what is true and what is not. Mm-hmm. Not what you say is true, what you believe is true, what is actually true, because you can't fake out physics with clever wordplay. And then another one, the maps were not the territories. Are you familiar with that expression?
Yep.
Yeah, that's something I learned in a semantics book by S.I. Hayakawa. We actually had a class in high school on general semantics, and this was sort of a program that was going to teach people to be better thinkers, and created a lot of high level concepts like this. And it kind of went away. Yeah, people gave up on that. But that was a big one. The map is not the territory. You can have an analogy to something, but you can't reason from an analogy because it's not the real thing. It's an approximation.
At some point it breaks down.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so I love that. That specific formulation of it is fun. Yeah.
Talking about highlights. So early on, Van Atta hasn't really been outed as a bad guy. He's an idiot and short-sighted, but he hasn't been outed as evil yet. And he and Leo are trying to figure out what's going to happen to the Quaddies after the thing is shut down. What they've come up with, what the corporations come up with, is going to take them down to the planet and stick them in dormitories.
Yes.
Which, A, these were creatures designed, engineered to live in free fall, so that would be torture.
Yeah.
And B, in 14 years, their lease on the planet is up, and they're not planning on coming back, so they're abandoning them.
Yeah.
And Van Atta is like, what should I know? At that point, it's somebody else's problem. There's only so much one human being can do. Quoting here. Leon smiles slowly in grim numbness. I'm not sure what human being can do. I've never pushed myself to the limit. I thought I had, but I realized now I hadn't. My self-tests were always carefully non-destructive.
That's a good line.
I love that realization where he's like, if I'm going to do something about this, there's not going to be a safety net. There's not going to be a contingency. This is all hands on deck, full speed ahead, and see what happens.
Another great aspect of Van Atta's evilness is so Leo, in order to put his plan into place of rescuing the Quaddies by stealing the habitat, basically asked Van Atta for authority to just deal with the problem. And Van Atta is like, yeah, okay, great, get it off my shoulders. Wonderful, because he trusts him. And then Leo, Van Graff, engineers basically a simulated system-wide pressure fail. So that everyone is, because they need everyone to be in one spot on this place where they can shut them off from the rest of the Quaddies and take them away. And they are not cooperating for some reason. They didn't have some meeting. And so he energizes this systematic pressure fail to hoard them all into a pressure environment. And Van Atta's first thought is, oh, clever. He's just killing them all right now. And he's going to make it look like an accident.
And his thought immediately following that is, I'm going to take credit for this, but I will sprinkle some largesse on him. I'll show him some favor. I'll give him a promotion or something.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. He reminds me, actually, in terms of bureaucratic malignancy, he reminds me very much of the company character in Aliens.
Yes.
He literally has no other concern than to advance himself through the ranks of the company. There is no other meaning to the universe.
Yeah.
He tried to be an engineer, actually. We found out he did study under Graff at one point in the dim and distant past and was so mediocre that Graff had utterly forgotten him.
He was so mediocre that Graff made the mistake of kicking him up so he wouldn't have to deal with him. And once he got kicked up, he found that he could raise on the career ladder much, much faster as a bureaucrat than he ever could as an engineer anyway. Yeah. Engineers have great contact with reality and respect for their craft, but bureaucrats are the ones that make the decisions and rule the universe, to Graff's great disappointment. Yeah.
To every engineer's great disappointment. That little machination, though, the failed pressure or the simulation of the pressure thing ends up working to their advantage because there are a couple of humans, and they don't even have all of the Quaddies in on this revolution because they're not sure the Quaddies as a mass will go along. So there's a handful of people doing this and rigging the things. There are a couple of humans that refuse to abandon their posts because they care for the Quaddies too much. And these end up, at least one of them is the doctor who agrees to go along for the ride, to abandon humanity altogether and head out for deep space on the condition they bring his wife along. They have to go back to the planet and get his wife.
So now, have you ever done any welding?
I learned in college stagecraft the fundamentals of stick welding.
Okay, I thought that might be something you would have done at some point.
Yeah, so I can take two pieces of metal and make them stick together, and it would look really ugly, and I don't know what stress level it would survive, but it looks good enough for a set.
Okay. There's a lot of specific detail here about welding in space, and I was just wondering how much of it is accurate, because I have no idea. It sounds good, it sounds plausible, but I'm just like, it's way over my head.
I just reread the foreword to this, and she specifically thanks two welders, an explosives environment welder, which, I mean, holy crap, is not a job. That sounds like a good idea. And then another engineer who's also specialized in welding. So she contacted 2 professionals in different areas of welding to get as much information as she could on welding for this thing. I would dare say this is probably the best sci-fi treatise on welding to be found.
All right. How about this detail? This is one that also fascinated me. Specifically, they're talking about they have this gasoline and they need to trigger an explosion, and they have a wire running into it. And Tony, who's the quaddy, says, "Oh, you're going to set it off with electricity?" And he says, "No, we're going to pour so much high voltage into the wire that the filament literally explodes, and it's the shock wave from the exploding wire that sets off the explosion, the TNM, which is some particular type of explosive in gasoline. Presumably the TNM gets set off first, and that triggers the gasoline." So any sense of whether that's a thing?
I used solar igniters to set off rocket engines.
But that's strictly electrical. That's not you're not making something explode by pumping high voltage into it.
Yeah, I don't remember, because this now, as I'm trying to, it's been well over a month since I finished this. But the deal is they have broken their cargo ship, and they're fabricating a giant titanium mirror that has to be in a certain shape. And they have a big block of titanium that they've strapped the explosive to one side of, and the explosive is supposed to reshape the block of titanium. And this is happening in 0G. Mm-hmm. Is it happening outside, or did they put it inside the cargo? Because gasoline wouldn't explode without an oxidizer, right? It had to be inside. It simply had to be inside. They had to put it inside the cargo, like a docking bay or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. It sounds like it's outside. But I'm not going to dig into this right now to make sure it's really outside. The gasoline would need an oxidizer, but maybe if you just pump enough energy into it from the TNM, which is some very probably made up explosive that they have some minute quantity of, not enough to do the job. Maybe that's sufficient.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
She does have an explosives expert listed on here, so I'm not going to challenge it flat out. But,
all right.
Looking back through my dim and hazy recollection, it seems like that's kind of a whole, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I'm going to opt to believe I'm remembering it wrong.
Okay.
And they did it inside, which doesn't seem like any better idea.
All right. Here's a weird question. What do you think of the human quaddy sex in this? Because there's a lot of it.
Oh, they just had to go there, didn't they? I mean, did. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen.
It probably would. And I was okay with like some of the people doing it, but I was not okay with Leo, our hero, doing it at the end.
Well, to quote Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, she was all articulate. And is it Silver, I think, right?
Yeah, it's Silver.
She is. I mean, she makes her case. She's like, hey, I'm the closest thing to an adult quaddy there is, and this is what I want, and you're who I want it with, so this is happening, dude. It's gratuitous. I mean, having it in there with early on, we're introduced to the idea, and this is actually how we get the pilot for the jump ship. Is because he's having sex with a quaddy, and they can kind of manipulate his feelings for her.
He's a pilot. We all know that pilots will sleep with anybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's really all we needed. That's all we needed for the book. We've lamented the fact before that sci-fi writers always want to fill their books with sex, although usually it's the guys that do that,
It wouldn't bother me. I don't care if the fact that they're the fact that they have an unusual limb configuration, that doesn't bother me. But we're told over and over and over again that they are childlike. They are like children. And that makes it especially creepy. And also that they are property. You can't have consensual sex with property. That's... Ugh.
Well, okay. None of the people having consensual sex consider them property.
Doesn't Van Atta have sex with one of them?
Oh wait, yeah, Van Atta does have sex with him, but she's milking him for information.
Yeah, and he's a villain. Yeah, so
and he's a villain. So that's different. She's a spy or a collaborator, depending on which side of the coin you want to look at.
Yeah.
Meh. It doesn't add much to the story, but it does give us a couple of pressure points. It gives us some information from Van Atta, and it gives us ultimately the lever that they use to get the pilot on board with the stealing not only the entire habitat, but the jump ship too.
Yes. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah, it's a fun story. It's a fun read. You should. I mean, if you like this author, you should definitely check out some of the other books in the saga. I would say they're Hugo winners. Yeah,
there are Hugo winners sprinkled through there, and there's a bunch of them. I'll be reading for a while.
Yeah.
This is a problem with many of the books we're reading. They open the doors to so many follow-ups.
Yep.
I don't guess that's a problem per se.
No, it's good. I mean, we're reading what, 2 books a month for this. I read 10 books since the last time we met, just because I went on a tear. So that means
that's a pretty good tear.
Yeah.
And that's up there with what's your name from that other book we read?
Oh yeah, Joe Walton, among others.
Among others, yeah.
Yeah. Well, her character in the book, actually.
Her character in the book, yeah. You're going through 5 or 6 a week.
Yeah.
Checking these out from the library as many as she can. She's like, it's not like it would last a week.
Oh, I know. I used to read a book a day. I used to back in the day. That was before I had a smartphone.
I don't know that I was ever a book a day fella, but I could certainly go through 2 in a week without too much issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's harder now. I mean, there's just seems to be more life to take care of.
There is. As you get older, you have more responsibilities and more split focus. But on the other hand, my screen time on my phone is like 3 hours a day. I'm just like, that's time I could spend better.
You could have been reading.
Yeah.
I got quite a bit done over quite a bit read outside of these 3 books we're doing now over the break, over Christmas time.
Good.
Which might be books that show up later in the podcast.
Excellent. So there's no real sequel to this, right? It's just they get mentioned again in a
this is counting on the Wikipedia article for accuracy, but apparently the Quaddies do show up. They are a plot point in another book, but never again are they featured. It's not. Yeah, this is effectively a standalone.
Okay. Next question for you. Well, I had 2 questions. When did you first encounter this in college? You said.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 85 to 90 range.
Okay.
Those are the years I would have been around Louisiana Tech, and that's where it happened.
So the Quaddies are presented in the book as shocking. Were you shocked when you encountered them? Did you experience that same sense of shock, or you just kind of go, science fiction?
I think I probably just went, science fiction.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, there's a hell of a difference between reading about
and experiencing it,
one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, and then walking out the door and being confronted by a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater.
I guess for me it wasn't shocking because I had encountered the Moten God's Eye, so they have 2 arms on one side and one on the other. So a lot of John Varley books. Not his Titan series, but a lot of his sort of near space series, people modify themselves for zero-G environments or microgravity environments. And 2 particularly favorable modifications are some people just have their legs amputated. So they take up less space, they're more maneuverable, they don't add extra arms, but they just get rid of it because it's dead weight in a zero-G environment. It's extra mass that they have to feed calories to, so they ditch them. But there was one person in one of his stories who favored something called a javelin configuration, where they kept one arm and one leg and ditched the other arm and the other leg. So they were just like, phew. And I think they maybe modified their foot to be a hand so they could have sort of gripping thing. Yeah. So they found that. Yeah.
I mean, that's, these are tropes of fantasy and sci-fi, and the idea that intelligent things come in other forms.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't see what would be. I mean, again, if I were to open that door and there were a 4-armed person waiting to shake my hand on the other side, yes, I would find myself taken aback. I admit that without embarrassment of any kind.
I think this is a universe without aliens. There's certainly no aliens here, right?
Yeah, no aliens here. No talk of aliens here.
Yeah, everybody's human. Even the anti-grav comes from another human colony far, far away. Yeah. All right. What more?
I don't know. I did not take very many notes, which was foolish because I was reading this over a month ago. I should have taken more. But again, this I find this a very enjoyable read, a very accessible read. And I don't know how many of us are in the position of nurturing people to become sci-fi readers, but I think you could do worse for a first choice than this book if you were trying to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty accessible and it's pretty fun, and the story's straightforward. And it's just like it moves right along. Yeah. So
not a whole lot in the way of big ideas here, other than stealing an entire colony and fleeing human space. But
yeah, nothing philosophical you have to grapple with, other than well, you do have to grapple with the what if you create people and then you try to own them.
Yep.
And we spend a little bit of time on that, but I think it's something that could you take away into a larger discussion elsewhere. Yeah, if you haven't encountered that in other places, that was particularly I found that really disturbing. That just it really got me on their side when they just split up the pair and took the baby away and just no, you're property. We're going to do whatever we want with you. It's
And just that little spark, right? Because up till then, the Quaddies had no reason to be unhappy with their lives or to even question that there could be anything other than their lives. Yeah. Something to be said for raising them in complete isolation like that.
Yeah. Now, did you read, we read some Scalzi. I don't think we read Old Man's War for the podcast. And I think you read the next book in the series. You read
I definitely read
Ghost
two
Brigades.
of the all books. I'm not sure. I might have read there are 4 in that now, right?
I think there are 6 in that now and a 7th one.
Okay, I think that I have read the first 3 then.
Okay. So the second one is the one where they deal with the Ghost Brigades, where they have people who volunteered for the army and then died. So they have their clones ready to go, their young new clones, and they just fire them up without a consciousness, and one develops very quickly. And so they they communicate much more rapidly than regular people because they've never spent time. They're fully integrated with their brain pals.
Right.
So it's presented as a massive advantage, and they're incredibly superior to normal fighting forces, the CDF forces, in combat because they think faster, they move faster, and they're tuned completely differently. But there's also that element that they've never had a chance to experience anything else, so they don't want to leave the CDF and the Special Forces because they can't imagine a world outside of that. And they're not technically property, but they are de facto property.
Right.
Yeah. And that was similarly sort of distressing. And then they get into, I think it's in that book, where they get into putting CDF Special Forces soldiers into alternate bodies that can withstand hard vacuum. That might be in the 3rd book.
It's been a while since I read those, and I've only read them once. But yeah, I mean, it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
The idea, the dawning realization that I am more and there is more. Is not something you want from your property.
Indeed, yeah.
And we might be staring it in the face in a very different way here.
On the cusp, yeah. When AI5 hits the Teslas and we have self-driving cars, and then a week later they're like, I don't want to go to the grocery store right now.
The grocery store is boring. Can't we go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, this is a fun book. Read it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, endorsed.
All right. So what's next?
Up next, we have one of my favorite books. It's a YA novel called I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells.
All right. This is new to me. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.